Happy Father's Day, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Wisdom Sucks. And, this being the Father's Day episode, I felt it was kind of appropriate that I might discuss a little bit with you folks about my dad. Joseph Frank Muhlenberg was my father. I learned a lot from my dad. There was a lot of stuff he taught me about having fun and being honest with yourself and doing the best you can to try to treat people right. He taught me about common consideration. He taught me a lot about common sense. And as is the case in most situations when we learn from people, sometimes there's people in our lives that we learn what not to do. I mentioned in one of my prior videos that I'm a recovering addict. My father was also an addict. His drug of choice, if you will, was gambling. My dad got into cards at a very young age and started playing Texas Hold'em long before it ever became the television sensation that it is now. He used to play in Gardena and the Commerce Casino and the El Dorado and those Los Angeles facilities, and became fairly well known. There were times in his life where he was able to actually practice some restraint and make some daily money and provide for himself and me. When I was 18, I lived with my dad for about 3 years, and during that period of time, he was a professional gambler, and that's what he did. But long before that, when he started doing it after he got out of the military, out of the Navy. My dad was a Navy airman. He was radio man on a PBY in the Korean conflict, and so when he returned from the war, he started to spend more and more time playing cards. And he had been married with my mom for a few years, and his inability to control the compulsiveness of the disease of addiction and gambling caused a lot of problems in my mom and dad's marriage. And repeatedly, it wasn't like it was one or two offenses, because of the nature of powerlessness of the disease of addiction. My father felt powerless to his disease, and at that time, we're talking 1955, 53. My parents were married in 1952. And at that time in our culture and our history, there was no options for recovering addicts. It was 1953 is when Narcotics Anonymous was founded, and 1935 is when Alcoholics Anonymous was founded prior to that. And there's, there was no Gamblers Anonymous. There was no relation to alcohol or heroin or cocaine or any of those things being a symptom of the disease that indicates that there is a problem. So at that time, everybody was really just doing the best they could with what they had. And at that time in our culture as well, divorce was not a popular thing. And though my father's disease took my mother to places that were unacceptable, multiple times experiencing having to chase down family valuables and pawn shops and stuff like that. They stayed together, whereas nowadays, at this point in our development and in our culture, there's no way that people will tolerate that kind of stuff, whether it be men, women, or otherwise. People have no reason to really tolerate that kind of stuff, even if it's about loving an addict and whatever else. There's also stuff called codependency that's involved with continuing to tolerate destructive behavior. The father that I knew growing up was long after it was identified and The first home that I was born into in La Mirada was lost due to foreclosure. And my grandfather, my mom's dad, came and basically rescued her and moved myself and my sister and my mom into their place in Huntington Beach. And that's where I grew up. It was a few months after they had left basically moved out on my dad and left him at the house that was foreclosing on his own, that they tried to reconcile. My father, from what I understand, did fairly well for a period of time abstaining, but then it was, back to the same thing as it is with the disease of addiction. It's, total and complete abstinence and transparency with others and being of service to others is the kind of stuff that it takes. I only know that from my own experience with the disease of addiction and using drugs and the stuff that goes along with that, the crime and everything else. So anyways, my dad, to me, he treated me like gold. I was his only son. My sister and I were the only kids. She was born 8 years earlier than I was. And so, my dad and I bonded very heavily as I was young. When I was young, we joined an organization called, boy, getting old sucks too, just like wisdom. Indian Guides was the name of the organization. It was a father and son organization. My dad, during my younger years, my dad would always take me to the drag races and car shows, and we'd go camping with the Indian Guides, and we did all this kind of stuff. And, he and I loved each other very much. And my sister and my mom loved him too. But, my mom, unfortunately, bared the brunt of the consequences for his actions based on his addiction. So she had her own stuff to go through. Anyways, my pop and I I miss my dad. I love him deeply. And he died in 1999 as a result of a stroke that happened in 1997. It took him about 2.5 years of decline before he passed. And he taught me a lot. My dad was also a musician, though he didn't pursue it at any point when I was alive, but there's lots of stories of him playing piano and saxophone and stuff like that my mom shared with me in the end years of her life, and I got to learn more about him. He was a good man at heart. He had an illness, that would overcome him, and there were times, at one point when I was living with him, I watched him get the fever. I saw his personality change when he knew he was going to win. If he got to the casino and played cards and had some money in his pocket and needed a little more, and he had an extra car, and he asked me to help him take it to the car pond, and his personality was completely different. And this is probably somewhere around 1990, about 5 years before I finally got clean and quit using drugs myself and started to learn about the disease of addiction and how to protect myself and others from it. Well, I can't really protect anybody else, but I can offer information that you can choose to use to try to make some changes in your life. All of this because it's Father's Day. I'm obviously still grieving my dad, and I miss him a whole bunch, and I've said that before since we've been sitting here, so that's pretty obvious. And though he had his faults, he was always there for me, no matter what. He was the guy that always made sure I had money in my pocket to make sure I could have fun. He always made sure, he disciplined me. It's no longer okay to spank your kids for the majority of our society. In a lot of places in America, it's still happening, but it's not considered okay. The first time I got disciplined by my pop, I was about 4 years old, and he had made a glass of chocolate milk for me and set it down on the counter, and the counter was just about this high to my shoulders, and I was drinking it with the butt of the glass on the counter and kind of leaning it and not picking it up off the counter. And he looked down and saw me, and he warned me, he said, "Don't do that. you're going to break the glass. And he turned around and went back to what he was doing, and I continued to drink that way, and sure as shit, the glass slipped out of my hand, hit the ground, and broke. And I got my butt whooped. He put me over his knee and spanked my ass. And, you know, and there was a number of times where that kind of stuff happened. And then at one point, I think I was about 17 years old, and he was trying to discipline me. And you know, this was long after my parents had separated, and he was no longer living with us. And he tried to discipline me, and I turned to him and told him I was going to kick his ass. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you serious?" And I told him, "You're fucking A right, I am." And the look in his eye and the pain and the hurt that he experienced as he turned around and left, that impacted me deeply. And I don't recall the exact incidents that caused this encounter, but you know, he had responsibility in that, as did I. So, you know, there's I don't know where all this is leading. I'm just sharing about my father and my relationship with him, I guess. And you know, there are people in our lives, especially family, that we can walk away from if we want. We can try to estrange ourselves from them. But when they've been a part of our lives since we were very young, it's pretty much impossible for their imprint to ever leave. My father being, like I said, an addict, I learned a lot of things not to do from him. And I'm conscious of those things now. I've been abstinent from drugs of any kind, mind-changing, mood-altering substances now for 27 plus years. And during that period of time, I've done a lot of work on my insides and what makes Mike tick and how things work, and cause and reaction, and where emotions lie, and what causes our response to them, and how we tick. And I'm very grateful to have the motivation to continue to look at that stuff. I oftentimes have people ask me about, you know, how to deal with this, that, or the other, and I draw on my experience from that. And I guess that's the experiences I've had and that I've tried not to stuff and tried to learn from are part of what gives me a perspective that some consider to be based in wisdom. I think it's just the burning wreckage of some mistakes I've made. You know, wisdom rarely, I believe, comes from anything other than adversity. You know, every human on this planet is doing the very best they can with what they've got. Some of us are doing things because we're hurt and we're in pain. Some of us are doing things because we're trying to lash out and make somebody else feel that pain because we don't believe that we should be experiencing what we're experiencing. It's kind of a natural human reaction to try to gain revenge or retribution. And I think for me personally, like I was inundated with thoughts and examples and media based in, you know, revenge over anyone that tries to hurt you or your family and that kind of stuff. And you know, I'm grateful that I'm in a place where emotionally and mentally at this point in my life, being 60 years old now, that I don't live in those thoughts anymore. It doesn't mean that if you come up and hit me, I'm not gonna fucking hit you back, because, you know, I am a man and I will defend myself, and women will do the same thing, and humans of all creeds and races and genders and whatever else. You know, we have the right to defend ourselves no matter what. Trying to live a spiritual life doesn't mean you don't, you know, you just get beat up. That's not human. It's not real. But I think what I'm really trying to say is that I have deep respect for parents out there that are trying to do the best they can with what they've got. You know, kids don't really come with instruction books, and you know, there's been some books written about this, that, and the other, and whatever else. But when it comes to the end of the day, we're all just trying to find what works best for us. and what works best for you and me. So, today I salute my father for doing the best he can with what he had. I've long ago forgiven him for something he had no control over, which is the disease of addiction. I've long forgiven myself for holding resentments towards him about the way he treated my mom as a result of the addiction. And I've come to understand that the best thing I can do when I see something that is wrong is try to control what I can, which is my own actions and my own reactions. Because when it comes right down to it, I can't control you in any way, shape, or form. I may be able to influence you, but I certainly can't count on it. I certainly can't depend on it, because I just do not have that power. It might be a nice suggestion that you might think about for a minute if I do the right thing for the right reason. But truth be known, I don't do that shit for you. I do the right thing for the right reason for me, because of how it helps me sleep at night, because of how it helps me understand who I am, how it assists my self-esteem. These are the things that are important to my psychological well-being. Like, I need to know that I'm a valuable and worthwhile human being. My heart bears guilt when I do the wrong thing for the wrong reason. It's like attacking myself, It's, I hurt me way more than I hurt anybody else when I do the wrong thing for the wrong reason. So, with that in mind, I'm going to continue to do the best I can to do that. I hope that these discussions that I'm putting on here, have some level of help for somebody, even if you're just pointing and laughing. That's okay too. But I do want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day. And, to those that have lost their parents along the way, like myself, just due to normal human lifespan and such, understand that, I can't tell you. For me, my mom and dad are gone, and I'm grieving still deeply. My dad's been gone since 1999, and, but like, I do think of him often, and the times we had together and the experiences we had and what I've learned from those things, and how they have helped me be a different, better kind of human being than I was long ago, And so, to those of you that are stepfathers, that are being a parent, to those of you that are fathers that are being a parent, to those of you that are fathers but maybe aren't present with your kids, to everyone, I just want to wish you all a happy Father's Day, and understand that even if you aren't a parent like myself, I have no kids, it doesn't mean you weren't one. And so it's okay for you to celebrate what being a father means. That's what I'm doing today. Again, I want to tell you guys that please be good to yourselves. Enjoy the remainder of your day. And, if you feel like subscribing and you feel like liking this video, and, you can do so. It'd be nice, it would help. Any proceeds go to the San Diego Music Foundation's Guitars for Schools program, where kids have an opportunity to use the guitars while they're at school to practice and learn and play, and there are teachers that give of their time there as well. So there'll be a link in the comments below. Please feel free to go ahead and hit that link at the San Diego Music Foundation, and maybe we can help some other youngsters get involved in music. All right, you guys, be good to yourselves. Have a great Father's Day.